Hello, 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 and welcome. Welcome, fellow citizens and sincere students of the Sasquatch species, all across North America and wherever else in the world our next of kin calls home. I'm your host, Christopher Noel, coming to you tonight live all the way from Vermont's Northeast Kingdom. And our topic tonight is traumatic encounters. Hello there. Hello, Sean.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
Good. Glad to see you. Glad to see you. You worked out the bugs.
Well, I just switched to my phone, so.
Yeah, that's exactly what Arizona Squatch did. These laptops are funky, so people use their phones. But guess what? I may be the last person in the world who doesn't have a phone. I got a landline.
Are you still using a rotary?
No, not quite, But I'm out in the boonies, and we don't get any service out here. So there's no reason except for road emergencies. I should have a phone, but I've just been dragging my feet. So I'm on a laptop, and that's why I look worse than you guys. Anyway, and now we have Kelly.
Hi, Chris.
Hey,
Hi,
Kelly,
everybody.
welcome.
Hello. Hold on. There's a palm frond obstructing my view. There.
Let me introduce everybody to each other. Arizona Squatch, Sean, and Kelly.
Hi there.
How you guys doing?
Wonderful. This is networking in action, right before our eyes. This is right before our eyes. Community building. I love it.
I love it. Me too.
So tonight we're going to hear a few accounts from people who have had difficult and long-lasting effects from encountering our cousins, our zoological next of kin in the forest. And understand as you watch and listen tonight that many people, we could go on for hours with 40 guests instead of 4 or 5. Wes at Sasquatch Chronicles has done this for years and hundreds of episodes, many of which feature people who have had traumatic encounters. And understand that this just is the tip of the tip of the tip of the tip of the iceberg for the thousands of people around this North American continent who have gone through the sort of dark night of the soul in some cases, recognizing that the world they thought they inhabited isn't the world that we really do inhabit, and they've had to adjust their entire outlook on nature and on our place in nature and on our place on the great food chain, so to speak.
Right.
So I, luckily or unluckily, have never had a direct encounter with a Sasquatch. I filmed them twice, but I didn't know at the time that I was filming them. I only saw that later. One was here in Vermont, just 2 miles from here in the ravine that I used to research before it went dead. And the other one was in East Texas when I was lucky enough to film the woodpile Sasquatch, but I didn't know it was on my camera at the time. In both cases, I was not sufficiently attentive to realize what I had right in front of me. So I avoided a direct encounter. And so I'm going to be as much in the audience tonight as our viewers at home, 41 of whom are now watching us.
Wow.
So who would like to, hello, our viewers, 44. Oh, yeah, this is going to explode tonight. Which of the three of you would like to start rolling out your account of what happened to you?
Well, I'll go ahead and jump in.
Good man.
My first encounter, I was a young Boy Scout. This is probably like 1981, 1980, somewhere right in there. We were on a backpacking trip up by the Mogollon Rim in Arizona, and pretty heavily forested area. We got a late start in and everything, so we didn't get in very far. And there was me, 4 other Boy Scouts and then 2 scout leaders. The scout leaders, you know, they racked out right away because they've been working all day long. This is a Friday night. And about half hour after they went to bed, the 4 of us were sitting around the campfire and had a rock. And you know, it was probably a 25, 30-pound rock that was thrown at our camp. Now we were up on a little flat spot, and then it dropped down into a drainage, and then it went up another hill, and it was from that other hill that the rock got thrown. And I've been leaning up against 2 pine trees that were kind of growing together, and the rock hit right on the other side of those trees. Scared the hell out of us. You know, we jumped up, we're screaming at the scout leaders. Scout leaders wake up. They're like, guys, go back to sleep. You know, you're just hearing critters out there. I'm like, no, man, you don't understand. And, you know, so they'd gone back to sleep. And, you know, about a half hour had passed. And then we start hearing heavy bipedal steps coming down the hill. Now, I want to back up just a little bit. In Arizona, Bigfoot's called the Mogollon monster. But we didn't equate it to being a Bigfoot. You know, we just, you know, this is back in the early 80s. You know, there's a monster out there. You know, Bigfoot lived in the Pacific Northwest. But we hear heavy bipedal steps coming down the hill towards us. And, of course, I jump up, put all of our wood on the campfire, and it flares up, and you hear boom, 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 going back up the hill while we're screaming. Scout leaders wake up, and they're like, guys, go back to sleep. Yeah, we're like, no, man, you don't understand what's going on. We're going to be eaten. I mean, I've never been so terrified in my entire life at that point. Yeah, you know, so this kind of behavior went on for about an hour. You know, it would come down the hill. We would get the fire going. It'd go back up the hill. Finally, the scout leaders woke up and had enough, and, you know, because there's no way we're going back to sleep. And, you know, so the last time that they got up, it actually had broke a tree. Now, the next morning we went and found the tree that had broke, and it was about 5 inches in diameter. But, you know,
that's an intense amount of diameter. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I mean, the noise that it made when that tree broke was just deafening, you know, because it was probably only about 65 yards away from us.
It's like a bomb going off when they break those trees.
Yeah.
Well, yes, you know, especially, you know, you're out in the middle of nowhere, and you know, it's nighttime, and, you know, the only sound you're hearing is that tree breaking. Well, when that tree broke, one of the scout leaders, he pulls out a 44 Magnum, fires a shot in the air, and then you hear it go running off through the brush. Yeah, it got probably about 100 yards away, and it let out this deafening, god awful scream. You know, so there's not a chance we're going back to sleep. We ended up actually getting, you know, at first light, we backpacked out of there, and scout leaders say, don't ever mention another word about this again. You know, and it was terrifying, you know, and I love being in the outdoors. I've always loved being in the outdoors. And, you know, so I struggled with this, you know, I you know, with the scouts and by myself, a lot of backpacking. I backpacked all over Arizona and Colorado and California, you know, just, you know, terrified that I was going to have that episode happen again. And, you know, now I know otherwise of, you know, what was actually going on, but, you know, terrifying. Yeah. You know,
the focus tonight is the trying to describe the internal effect that this had on you, because this is one of the main pillars of our reason to push for awareness and public education, so that people won't be blindsided quite as badly. So can you describe what it was like for you psychologically?
It was pretty bad. You know, it was almost to the point to where I was never going to go into the outdoors again. But my personality being what it is, you know, I'm not going to let anything hold me back. And, you know, so it was probably about 3 months before I even, you know, thought about going out on another trip again. You know, I had nightmares, you know, of this.
I was going to ask about that. Yeah.
for a long time. And even going into my adulthood, being in the military, and I would still have nightmares about this. I mean, it was a horrific event.
Would you wake up sitting bolt upright and sweating and stuff like that, or just nightmares sleeping?
No, just nightmares while I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
I'd wake up from it, be trembling a little bit. It's is it something that created a level of PTSD for me? I would have to say no.
Yeah.
But it very well could have.
Well, you didn't even see the darn thing. If you'd seen it, maybe it would be a whole different story.
Yeah, well, at that point in time, yeah, I guarantee you it would have been a whole different story. And at that point in time, I probably never would have gone back out in the woods.
Yeah, there you go.
But
well, if you have it, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
If you did you have did you have later sightings or encounters?
Oh yeah.
Let's save those for,
yeah.
We'll sort of stagger it.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead. Well, if you have the last.
I was just going to say, since I've been actively out habituating, doing what I've been doing for just over 2 years now, since June of 2017, when our family was out on an outing and had some pretty remarkable stuff happen and found footprints. And since then, I've had I want to say 5 daytime sightings, but the one that I had just about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, I'm not ready to confirm it as a sighting until I get back up there with my buddy from the BFRO and we actually do the recreation and everything.
Oh, wow, that's great.
But yeah,
that's great. Well,
but I'll say 4 daytime sightings and 8 nighttime sightings.
wow, you are so lucky, man. I mean, some people wouldn't think of it as lucky, but I bet you do.
Like I was saying, at the very beginning of this, knowing what I know now versus, back in the 80s, it's a world of difference.
Right. Well, let's have the lady next, and that's Kelly.
Thank you, Chris. Can you guys hear me okay?
Oh yeah.
You're fine.
Okay, because I see he's got his fancy headphones and things, and I'm just kicking it on the porch with my iPhone. So.
Well, I had the headphone thing set up for my laptop, but my laptop didn't support this, so I had to jump over onto the phone, and it's kind of cutting out some of the background noise here where I'm at. So.
Oh, good.
Got it. All right. Well, thanks, Chris. And wow, I can really relate to a lot of what you were just talking about, especially when you said you thought maybe you'd never go into the woods again. My first sighting of Sasquatch was not very long ago, and don't I guess I brought this on myself. Don't feel too bad for me because I certainly was out there looking. Well, I was documenting structures. I was still just filled with wonder that this was true, that this was all true, and I wasn't prepared for what would happen next. So that was just it. It was I had a window of time on an afternoon, June 14th. I have a black and blue on my thumb, and that happened that day. Before I walked into the woods, I slammed the car door on my thumb. Should have taken that as a sign.
So that's how recent it was that you still have the.
I still have it.
Is it tomorrow? Tomorrow is 2 months.
It looks like a Sasquatch, doesn't it? No. Anyway, so I had this time to kill, and I thought, great, I've got time to kill before my doctor's appointment, so I'm gonna stop in at this place that I'd been monitoring, the structure building and the changes I was seeing there. It is a very interesting place. The structures, the color of the wood is uniform. It's always dark red and black, and it just seemed to have this unique artistic flair, different from structures I would see other places. So it was an interesting spot. And I set a timer on my phone so I wouldn't be late for my appointment. And I started running video of as I walked up into the area and off the human trail to where it's kind of a hot spot of a lot of structures, just a field of structures. And and I'm rolling the film, and I'm not good at this at all, you know, and I'm saying, wow, look at this. This looks like a star, and it's like facing the sky. And and as I'm sort of filming that and saying that, I smell a rotten onion odor. And but I don't say that out loud. I just smell it and keep doing what I'm doing. And so I continue to walk. Now I'm heading in a specific direction on a bit of a game trail. So, you know, just a narrow little, you know, it's an animal trail. And I realize I'm talking, and I realize my camera phone is pointing at the ground. And I say, yeah, I'm not really doing a very good job of with the view through the camera. I'm sort of watching my steps so I don't trip, eh? And at that moment, I decide, yeah, Kelly Holt, bring your camera back, you know, up around eye level. And as I do so, I catch some movement in my peripheral vision off to the right, just ahead of these ferns. And I look up, and it's a Sasquatch, and it's walking away from me. It steps over an old stone wall.
This is
And
about 300 feet away across a field.
this is about 300 feet away. Not so much a field, it's forest, but
Mm.
it's a big patch of fern. There's a
Mhm.
huge patch of fern growing, and then you can see the top of these old stone wall dividers in this area. And I'm gonna say she because I've decided it's a female. I see her step over it and continue on. But in that moment, I just I just freeze. My heart literally stopped, and I say, and in my mind, I'm thinking, my first quick thought was, keep the camera, keep the camera. That was just like a flash thought. But then I thought, my instinct said, there could be another one right behind you. And I said, okay. And I just turned and I moved fast. I know enough not to run if you ever feel like there's a predatory animal or apex predator. But I moved real fast down to the human trail, got to my car, and freaked out. And I was the only one there. There was no one else there. I although I had never seen one before, except in other people's footage, I knew exactly what I saw. It clicked to me, you know, what the smell was, and I got myself calm enough to check the footage before I, you know, walked off briskly with the camera, and I did catch a few seconds of it. Um, and then I had to go to this doctor's appointment, and I was in shock. I was in shock. I don't remember my doctor's appointment and I almost didn't go because I thought, I'm going to open my mouth and say, Doc, I just saw Bigfoot, you know, and then he'd say, I'm so glad you're here. And we have a
Yeah.
room upstairs
Just switch you to the
for you.
white coats.
Right. With cushy, bouncy walls.
Yeah, you'll love it.
Yeah. And, and I was really a wreck. I was, you know, it's a mixture of being blown away, keep saying, did that really happen? Did that just happen? Did that just happen? And fear. And as I had mentioned to Chris, and you know why I'm here is I do suffer from PTSD from a trauma early in my life. And so, you know, on the one hand, you could say, wow, this is really exciting. How lucky was I, you know, that I saw that, except you know, it's also a chemical issue in your brain.
Yeah.
And it really triggered my PTSD all over again. And the fallout, it has been, in terms of my health or my mental status, is that my anxiety is ramped up. I've had a lot more panic attacks um, than I'd had in a long time. My, you know, when night comes, I'm good. I'm all right during the day. As soon as night comes, you know, I'm shutting my curtains as tightly as I can. I don't like walking past an exposed window. everybody lives in the woods around here. It's not so much as you, Chris, in Vermont, but it's wooded. And it's not that she was here on my property. It's just it's it's the return of old bad scripts from bad memories and
Yeah.
behaviors that go with it. You mentioned nightmares. Shortly after that, I had an awful nightmare. Sasquatch had come and surrounded wherever I lived. It wasn't where I live now, but this in my dream, and they were basically taking humans and enslaving us. And I was trying to gather things that I wanted and beg for time to pack a bag and negotiate with them that I was useful and not to kill me. And I woke up just drenched in sweat. I'm sleeping with my light on. Um, all these old bad habits that I had after a violent crime that I was a victim of when I was young have sort of resurfaced. And so that's why I think I'm glad to be here, and it's important that we talk about this and that Chris is doing what he's doing, because look, I went out there looking, and I'm a little bit of a mess, okay? And there are
Yeah, you
people
weren't
that were minding
blindsided.
their own business.
Sorry. I mean, you knew about the species. You had been researching quite actively for a while.
Yes, I had been researching, and my research made me realize that I had experienced I like you, have spent my life hiking and exploring and loving the forest and the mountains, was in scouts, through Eagle Scouts, always lots of, backpacking. And, when I accidentally stumbled onto Sasquatch research, I realized that I had seen structures, heard vocalizations, chattering whoops, and had just I couldn't explain it, and so I just blocked it out all of my outdoor exploring life. And then I stumbled upon this, and I went, "Wow, I've been aware. I know. What did I think this was?" And so I did go in there looking and looking again and going, "Wow," and filled with wonder. Um, but I guess I thought that's what I would see would be the structures. And I'm starting to enjoy photography in my older age. And I thought that would be that. I never walked in thinking, "Oh, I hope I see Bigfoot.
I know.
Maybe we
I
can
used to
get
at
a
the beginning,
selfie."
12 years ago, I used to think whenever I went in the woods, I would, be kind of walking on eggshells like I was going to see one. And now I never think that because it never happens. You got very lucky, but it's a two-sided coin emotionally. You're filled with wonder and fascination and gratitude, I bet. But also there's the other
Yes,
darker side.
that's just it. It is and maybe that's just a really good analogy for life, right? There's no good without bad.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no fear without, they go together. And however, I have chosen to forge on, keep working through. You mentioned night sight. I went out and got a monocular after that, and let me
Hmm.
tell you something. I'm never searching for him at night. He can have the woods at night.
Yeah,
That seems to be my big trigger, is things in the dark.
right.
So the daytime
Well,
stuff is fun
yeah.
with me.
Well,
You know.
I definitely get you on the PTSD. I am a combat veteran from Desert Storm, and
Oh,
from
God bless you, sir.
from stuff there. Yeah, I have a lot of PTSD issues from that. So I truly appreciate what you're saying. With the anxieties and all that, because I'm just loaded with it. The amazing part is when I'm out there, all goes away. Um, I, I,
Exactly.
I,
Exactly.
I can't explain it. Um, you know, I when I go out, because I habituate, I do not go out there like an intruder. I don't run cameras. I don't try and get video. Um,
Okay.
no, I try to be a guest, not an intruder. I'm not trying to take photographs or video of them. I'm not trying to get them on thermal imaging or anything like that. All these night sightings I've had have been, during or around full moons. Um,
Ah,
yeah.
interesting. So you
Yeah.
you had some ambient light to see. Yeah, that's great. Well,
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Kelly,
it will
and
be lit up behind them, but
thank you so much, Kelly, for sharing that. And we can come in with more from you in a minute. Sean, you have been very, very patient sitting there. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. So
Hi, Sean.
let's put you on the spot here.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Yes.
Okay, great. Wow, yeah, for me, there's no positive side of this. These things rob me of my enjoyment of the outdoors. I don't go out and feel comfortable anymore. It messed me up. The more I talk about it, the easier it is to tell my story and stuff like that. But it sucks. Hunting season's coming up in a couple of weeks. Archery season starts, and this is what I look forward to every year, and I'm not looking forward to it. It's a drag. But anyway, what
Mm.
happened to me was last year, archery season, I go in early. I'm setting up. I want to check my stands, put in some cameras. I'm going to build a bridge over this washout to get to one of my stands. And as I'm going in, I see a big footprint. It's about 20 inches. Make it out really well. And it freaked me out. I took pictures of it. No idea. I didn't believe in Bigfoot. I never thought about it, to be honest. I mean, I'd seen the TV shows and I'd seen the Patty footage and stuff like that, but I didn't give any of it. I didn't believe. So, and I'm not believing at this point either. I'm thinking, what the heck is that? How could that be? Is that really a footprint? But it was. It was a left foot. And anyway, I go set up my stuff in that one. I walk around this horseshoe area to my other stand that's across the field from this particular stand where I saw the first one. I find another footprint down in the ditch. This one's 7 or 8 inches, probably about 8 inches. It's the right foot. You can see where it stepped off the hill into the ditch and back up onto the other side. I take a picture of that and I'm thinking, okay, there's a kid running around here with his shoes off. Weird.
With 20-inch feet.
Yeah, well, no, the second one was only 8. So I took 2 footprints the first day. Anyway, I get up into that tree and I see that the tree bark has been ripped off in 2 strips as high up as you can reach standing on the back of my seat. And the bark is shredded. It's all over the ground. It's fresh. The wood underneath is still white. This is a big cottonwood tree, real thick, hardy bark, not easy to pull off. And up further, it stops and it starts again on one side. And you can see where the animal must have been hanging on to rebar that I had pounded into the tree from a tree stand I had higher and pulled the bark off even more. So I think it was a juvenile that did that. I think it's the one with the 8-inch foot. I'm going to back up a little bit. The first thing that ever happened to me was about 5 or 6 years ago. I want to say I was screamed at in there. It was a blood-curdling. It sounded like a woman getting murdered, but then it went low and into like a monkey thing. It was weird. I've heard the same thing now. I didn't know what it was at the time. Scared me, but I didn't think about it again until I heard it on a show when I was researching Bigfoot after I'd seen these footprints. So it all kind of came together at that point. So now I'm thinking, okay, it could be real. Maybe it's real. I don't know. All these people seem to be telling pretty legitimate sounding stories. I'm listening to Sasquatch Chronicles and stuff like that. And sorry, you just slid down there. Working with my phone here. Anyway, fast forward. We get to the. I'm working every day. I'm trying to save up money for this crossbow that I want to buy, and finally get it. I get the crossbow. I get down there. It's the last day of archery season before rifle comes in, but it's too late. There's no way I'm going to make it down into this other tree stand that's way on the other side.
Remind us how long ago this was?
This from the beginning to the end. It's early September when I saw the footprints, and now we're on. Yeah, last year, and then we fast forward to July. October 28th. So October 28th is when I had my sighting. So last day of archery season. I get down there, it's too late. So I think I'm just going to glass the field and see if I can figure out what the animals are doing. If I can figure out where this buck, I had a buck on trail cam and I want to see where he comes out, because I can't hunt this during rifle season. I have to go somewhere else. There's a guy that comes and hunts during rifle. That's just the arrangement I have with the farmer. It's always been that way. I go to a different place to rifle hunt. And anyway, I'm blasting up and down. I'm looking through the trees. I'm looking at my phone. I'm doing Facebook. I'm playing with the radio. I'm glassing up and down. I'm not seeing anything. No animals, nowhere.
Glassing, that looking in
Binoculars.
Binoculars, right?
Yeah. So I've got my binoculars out and I'm going up and down the trees, and then I start coming up the divider, the old fence line that divides the two properties. Where I'm at, there's beans. On the other side is corn. The corn had been cut out. My beans are still in there, but right down the center here, the old post line, there's some bushes and trees and thicket. I see something black. So I focus in, and sure as shit, there it is. I see its head. So I dial in, and this thing's behind a bush, and I'm looking at its head, and I'm in shock at this point. I don't really believe what I'm seeing. I take the binoculars down. I look without binoculars, and I can see the outline, but I can't see all the features. So I put the binoculars back up, focus in again, and I can see this thing plain as day. I can see its eyes, its forehead, the top of its head, the hair around its face, all the way down to the bottom lip, and that's it. That's where it kind of washes out. So I'm looking at this thing, I don't know how long, maybe 10 or 15 seconds, and then it blinks. When it blinks, everything gets real, and I started shaking really bad. So
kind of like a dream up until that moment.
Exactly. That's what it was like. It was freaky. So the reality kicks in, and it scares me. I can't focus. My hands are shaking. I decide I'm going to turn my truck on and drive towards this thing and make it run. Well, I get about 10 yards forward towards this thing, and I common sense kicks in, and I'm thinking, okay, all I have is a 9mm and a crossbow. If this thing wants to pull me out of my truck and kill me, I just stopped, and I backed up, and I tried to recreate what I had just seen, and it was gone. I don't know what happened to it. I don't know if it hit the ground and crawled down the ditch, or if it just laid there flat. But I did go back a few days later, and I found a footprint right there, and I could see where it laid down. So I'm pretty sure that it just hit the ground and just laid flat and waited. And I think what happened was I interrupted its hunt. It was waiting on that fence line for deer to come through. So anyway, that's my story. I've got some more stuff here that I can show you later.
Sorry, that's very similar to Kerry Arnold's experience with how he felt like he was messing with his hunting.
Yeah, well, that's what they're doing in this area. This isn't an area where they would habituate or live. This would be hunting grounds.
Yeah,
I'm sure of that.
So describe how it left you in the wake of that experience.
Traumatized. I'm still a wreck.
Well, that was very recent. I mean, that was only 10 months ago, man.
Yeah. So, I love hunting. I'm gonna try and hunt, but I don't think I'll be able to stay in there after dark. And I don't know if I'm gonna be able to enjoy myself, but I don't want to stop. It's like I got to try to see if I can do it.
Right.
But I don't know if I'm gonna enjoy it anymore, and that really sucks. It bums me out. So. Well, I'm not looking forward to this winter. Normally, I look forward to fall and winter. It's my favorite season.
Yeah. Well, Sean, you're a perfect example of why we need public education. I mean, can you imagine how things might have been different if you had been sort of steeped in the reality of this thing up through school and, through adulthood? And
yeah, that's why I'm here, and that's why I do this a lot. I mean, I'm part of the Jevning research group too. Will Jevning is a friend of mine.
Yes,
I've been on Sasquatch Chronicles. I've been on Kerry's show. I will tell anybody my story that wants to hear it, and I don't care anymore if people think I'm crazy. It just needs to get out there. People need to know these things are real. Because if I would have known about these things, and I could have had some idea of what you do if you run into a Bigfoot or whatever, I probably wouldn't be so freaked out. I think the government knows about it, and I think there's only two ways we're gonna it's going to come clean is if the government either tells us or somebody brings a body. And I'd rather have the government tell us,
Right.
come clean.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, exactly. And I mean, you were blindsided, just like
Big time.
just like Arizona Squatch was in the upper right, blindsided as a child, and yet you actually saw it and it blinked, and everything became, horrendously real for you in an instant, and you didn't have any context. That's what we need: context, we need framing, we need education, awareness, so that
The
people.
only context I had were the tree beaters on TV screaming and stuff.
Yeah, that's hardly.
That's just
Yeah.
entertainment. It's not even real.
Exactly. And you represent probably 50,000 people who have been through the very same kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
And all of
And
them would have been much, much better off with an elementary school onward education in these things, the species. Because, this thing wasn't going to hurt you in all likelihood.
No.
It's our cousin. And if you see your cousin in the woods behind a tree, you're going to say, oh, it's our cousin. You're still going to be freaked out because it's a rare, opportunity. But you're going to have a category to slot it into. You're going to say, there's one of those. Okay, I'll just back out respectfully, and give it its sovereignty, and not try to run it. You wouldn't have even started with the truck tactic. You would have just driven away, and you would have been much, much better off.
Well, absolutely. If I would have known, if these things were just common knowledge, I think it wouldn't be such a big deal for anybody.
Yep.
And
Well,
I was just gonna say-
the common knowledge thing, probably will help, but it still doesn't do anything for the, compartmentalizing, when you actually see one of these things, well, I won't say the closest one I've seen, but the biggest one I've seen, and I only saw him for about a second, and it was at night, somewhere between 10 to 11 feet tall. Just thing is massive. When we did the recreation on it, my jaw hit the floor, because my buddy's like 6'1", 6'2", and I was able to place about how tall it was because of some trees that were behind it.
Mm-hmm.
This thing is huge.
I mean, you probably didn't want to think that it was 11 feet tall, because that sounds freaking insane. But the measurement doesn't lie.
No, his footprints, and I've found his tracks on multiple occasions. 10.5 inches across at the toes, 23 inches in length. So, according to measurements off the foot and everything, that puts him right about the 11 foot.
That is 11 foot. Yeah.
Yep. I still sit and think about how big this guy is, and I'm out there with him all the time, and it's frame of reference is the issue that I think that we have.
That's the phrase. Thank you. That's the phrase.
Yep.
Mm.
Very good. Very good.
If I could just say, common knowledge, why it's important, or why I agree, Chris, that this just has to be put out there. Think about, look, anybody who enjoys the woods, we all better know what is good bear safety. Like, think about it that way,
Exactly.
We need some good Sasquatch safety, right? And if it's still overwhelming certainly for me, and for I think all of us here, to imagine this powerful cousin of ours, as Chris would say, that they're out there, that they're such masters of concealment and camouflage. And maybe you'll never, just the way maybe people will never run into a bear. Maybe people will never run into Sasquatch, and maybe they'll be just fine with that, just as they're just fine with never running into a bear. But shouldn't everybody kind of know that there are bears in the woods, and what to do and not to do?
I mean, some people might say that. Some people might say that the government or whatever agency within the government knows about this and is not not putting it forward. I mean, as I've said before, I'm 95% sure that they know a lot about them, but I'm 100% sure that they know they exist at all. And
I agree.
And whatever,
Absolutely.
I'll just finish this. What some could say that they're just being they're committing a sin of omission rather than committing a sin, or that they're just being passive or something. But no, they're actively perpetrating or inflicting this damage on people by not letting us know. They're not only complicit. This might get me a black van in my driveway later this week, but just to say they're complicit in, almost definitely complicit in the deaths of many people, because there are those Sasquatch, just like there are those men who will just they'll kill you as soon as they look at you. And I'm sure that that's happened. I'm sure that kids have been taken. There's too many reports to that effect for them all to be false or drummed up. And so the government, or whatever subgroup within the government that's keeping this from us, is an accomplice, is an unindicted co-conspirator, or whatever you want, however you want to put it. Go ahead. Were you trying to say something, Kevin?
No, it wasn't me.
Who was that? Sean?
I was just saying I completely agree with you, Chris. I think that it's not an omission. I think it is. I think they absolutely know, and they put us in harm's way by not.
Yeah. Now, as far as the government knowing, the government absolutely knows what's going on.
You may be in a good position to know this as a veteran. Do you have any inside knowledge?
No, as a veteran, no, I don't have any inside knowledge. But I do have enough experience with the government, to understand how they operate. Like I said, Desert Storm veteran, and the stuff that we were exposed to over there that they say no, you weren't exposed to. It's like, well, yeah, we were. But my primary habituation area that I had named Squatch Camp, just arbitrarily got closed down this year. And they were using the excuse of they're going to go in and thin the trees out because of fire danger and stuff like that. Yet they don't have anybody to buy the trees yet. Well, they first started marking these trees in August of 2017. I contacted the Forest Service. They said, oh, it'll probably be 2 years before they get cut down. So then I was like, all right, I got a couple years in here. Last year, I was talking with the Forest Service a little more in depth, and they said, yeah, we don't know. There's no plans on it being cut right now. The areas, the whole entire area up on top of the Mogollon Rim where I go gets closed down during the winter because of snowfall. It's like just shy of 8,000 feet.
Oh, yeah.
So as soon as the area is opened back up, I'm in there. I'm usually the first person in there. This particular area where Squatch Camp was closed down. I was like, why is this still closed? And so over the last, since April, every month I'm calling them up. Why is this still closed? Oh, well, because the trees are going to get cut. Well, they were going to get cut last year and the year before. Do you have somebody to buy the trees? No. Well, then why is it closed? Well, we're worried about a tree falling on somebody. What? So then the next time I talked to them, and they did go in and do some work on the road. Made it passable. You needed a high clearance vehicle prior to that. They said, well, we just spent $100,000 on rebuilding this road, and we don't want it destroyed for when the forestry or the loggers come in and cut everything out. It's like, so you're worried about 4-wheel drive vehicles, quads, cars, what have you, driving down this road, that you think they're going to destroy it, but these tractors aren't.
Wow.
Let's use a little common sense here. And so my last trip out of there about a week and a half ago, it was that particular area was still closed, and I'm heading back up tomorrow actually, and I'm still expecting that area to be closed. So.
Well, that makes you think. I mean, we've heard those stories on various internet radio shows about government officials coming in and shutting the operation down. It's nothing like that has ever happened to me, but many people I worked with when I was writing the book, Our Life with Bigfoot, that uses testimonials from 6 different habituation sites. Several of those had, no joke, black helicopters coming out, hovering around their houses. So,
That doesn't surprise me.
it just sucks. That this really, really sucks. I mean, there's many reasons why we can imagine that it would be in the government's interest to keep this under wraps. I mean, we've all heard the reasons. We don't need to go through them, or we can if you want to. But it's just, I'm hoping that there will be some insiders with a conscience who will leak something to me or to somebody in a position to use it to help move things forward. I mean, that's part of my hope in trying to initiate this campaign is to get the attention of some people who have been quietly standing on the sidelines, who may have access to information that the citizens of the United States and Canada, and indeed the rest of the world, deserve to have, because it's not freaking fair. And some people might say, "Oh, poor them. They can't go in the woods anymore, and they feel scared or whatever." Well, this is legitimate psychological, emotional harm and wounding. Not to mention people who are killed and kidnapped. This is no trivial matter. And your stories here tonight are, as I said, just the tip of the iceberg. And there are many people who are probably much more damaged than you guys are, who would never think of coming on a show like this and talking about it. And they're crippled. They're crippled because not only did they not just hear it, but saw a Sasquatch like you did, Sean, and you did, Kelly, but the Sasquatch probably was aggressive. Your two were not aggressive at all, and look where it left you. But picture having a bluff charge where it's not in the dark, but in the daylight, and this freaking thing is 9 or 10 feet tall and 900 pounds, and you see your life flash before your eyes. You never go out again. Maybe you're agoraphobic and never leave the house, much less not just going in the woods. I mean, this is real shit. Anyway,
yeah, it is.
Absolutely.
And it's my personal belief, this is just me, that because I've had that terrifying experience, and what I know now through experience and tackling, these fears and issues that I had from when I was younger head on. That my belief is that, when people are getting a lot of these aggressive behaviors, they're just testing your mettle. They want to see what you're made of.
99% of the time.
Yep.
But it's that 1%. You never know. This one could have a brain tumor. This one could have emotional issues. This one could have, any number
rabies
of behavior. Yeah, rabies, precisely. Thank you, Kelly. Oh my God.
I don't know what his problem is.
You never know. You never know.
Yeah. Well, and my wife asks me all the time, "Aren't you afraid of being out there by yourself with them?" I said, "I'm more afraid driving down the freeway than I am going out there in the woods." So
thank you. People, I used to take my daughter out in the ravine near here, and people on YouTube would comment, "You're a terrible father. You're putting her in harm's way." And I say, it's more dangerous to walk with her down a city street, any city street.
That's true.
But of course, you never know where the murderous ones are. So it's a calculated risk. It's what it is.
Yeah.
What was I going to say?
All the ones I've encountered are full of love. So.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, Kevin, Arizona Squatch, or is it Arizona Sasquatch? Which one?
Arizona Squatch.
Arizona Squatch. That under normal circumstances, I'd love to hear your other sightings, but the specific topic of the show is negative encounters. So I guess we can leave those on the table. And I will keep watching your channel and learning from you. Well, Kerry Arnold was going to try to pop on if he could and tell a brief version of his story. You've probably all heard it, where he was hunting for deer in this leased piece of land, and he was confronted with an absolutely demonic large male. And by demonic, I don't mean literally demonic. I mean, that's the feeling. That's the kind of feeling tone that the encounter had for him. This thing just peeled back its lips and made the most like the Exorcist kind of sound. And that was 11 years ago. And until just a few weeks ago, he has never been back in the woods by himself. He used to always go in, always hunt, and he loved it. And, if you should go back if you haven't yet and watch, I forget which episode it is of the Bigfoot Odyssey long version documentaries. It's either the second or third, I believe, maybe the fourth episode. He goes into great detail about his encounter and the emotional toll it has taken on him. So I recommend that to our viewers. We have 97. We almost hit triple digits tonight. That's wonderful.
Yay.
Well, I'll reiterate again, Chris, that this fear is absolute real. That people experience out there. I by no means want to make it sound like I'm writing off or anything, because absolutely not.
You're just been lucky to have a beneficent group.
Yeah. For those of you who are listening, trauma is trauma, regardless of what somebody else thinks it is.
Right.
So when you have something traumatizing happen, seeing one of these forest beings, and not being able to compartmentalize it, no frame of reference for it other than, oh my God, these things are real, and all your emotions come to the surface, and it's hard to deal with at the moment.
To organize those emotions or to classify them.
Exactly.
Here's what I'm going to do at this point. I want to apologize to people in the chat room. I see there's like 150 comments, but I've been focused on our guests, and I don't have a moderator yet, which is my fault. And so I haven't been able to read your comments. And I know that mostly you're talking amongst yourselves, but I apologize. What I'm going to do is put the link to the show right now in the comments. And if any of you is sitting there thinking, geez, I wish I had come on the show, I've got a perfect story that fits with what they're talking about, click the link and come in. I'll give you a couple minutes. There it is. There it is. So I don't know if it's clickable. You can paste it into the browser, and then you have to just get your settings right. It takes a minute to go through the steps, and then you come on with it. If you're afraid we're about to shut down the episode and you want us to wait, say so in the comments if somebody is trying to get in. So we'll wait another minute. Any final thoughts, folks? I really appreciate your sharing this tonight. It's been a great episode, a great discussion, and I really think we need much more like this, all across the community.
Well, I know a guy who's actually a sheriff who was approached by these government guys, your black helicopter guys, and they tried to recruit him.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he thought about it, but it would take too much away from his family, and he's had a few experiences himself. His name's TW, and he's also a JRG guy, real good guy, and a friend. But if you want to hear his story, I think it's on. Good golly, Will Jevning has a podcast called it's the Jevning Research Group. If you Google it, you'll figure it out. Anyway, go through there, and Jevning's got a couple of different podcasts. It's in there somewhere. But TW's got a really good story about trying to be recruited.
TW.
Yeah. TW Youngs is his name.
Oh,
great
okay.
Guy.
Great. Thank you very much. Do you remember what these recruiters told him and how they framed it for him?
Well, they were in towns dealing with a Sasquatch problem in the small town down in Texas that he was in, and he was getting in their business, and they were getting mad at him, and he actually pulled him over, and he said, "Hey, listen, let me help you guys. I know what's going on here. And they tried to get him to join with them, and it would have taken too much away from his family. So there was kind of a professional courtesy, and at the same time telling him to back off, because you just need to back off
Wow.
at the same time. So
Wow, that's the kind
the
of
government
window.
definitely knows. They definitely know.
We need a lot of windows like that. Thank you so much. So I see that nobody's hopping in from the chat room, but listen, if you're in the chat room and you're feeling shy, but you really do have something to contribute that you feel passionate about sharing, we're going to do another of these episodes either next week or in one of the coming weeks, where we talk about the emotional fallout and the crying need for education, public education, and frame of reference and common knowledge. So write to me either in the comments below or through Facebook, and we'll get you on one of the upcoming episodes where we return to this specific topic of the emotional fallout from these encounters. And with that, we're just about at our hour, and I want to so appreciate once again Kelly, Arizona Squatch, and Mr. Sean. I won't use your last name since you didn't put it in the.
Here. Actually, it's Sean Wilson. Anybody out there wants to get a hold of me, you can reach me at nebraskajrg@gmail. Especially if you're in the Midwest or Nebraska and you've had experiences, I would love to hear your story and maybe go out and do some walking around. So,
thank you, Sean Wilson. I appreciate your transparency. That's great. Although it's fine people not to be transparent. There's many reasons, good reasons on both sides.
absolutely.
Kelly, I remember something. I want to give you kudos for the fact that right after you saw the Sasquatch 300 yards away, before you ran to your car, what did you do?
Checked my phone.
You
my
checked your
camera.
freaking footage. I love that. I was going
checked
to
the
compliment you.
footage. I did.
I was going to compliment you 45 minutes ago, but I just filed it away and it just came back to me. So good on you, my friend. Good on you.
Thanks.
And
in further review, and that was part of what was so scary, was realizing that I'm not as skilled and observant in the wilderness as I thought I was. Is there were more, and they were around me while I was filming, and I was unaware. And Chris, I did send you one. Hopefully that one was pretty good. That was the one we found later.
yeah, it's blurry, but you can tell the outline of the shape.
Yeah,
not far
you can
from
see his hand and his arm, and
yeah.
But
if you want,
thank you.
No pressure whatsoever, and I mean that. But if you want to post any of those clips, including the one 300 yards away that you got a few seconds, 300 feet away that you got a few
not
seconds.
yards.
Yeah, you got a few seconds of. You can post it in our Facebook group, and people would appreciate that. But of course, don't do it if you don't want to.
No, it's okay. Thank you. Oh, you're right. And Sean was saying you want to reach me. That's the other part of the trauma. The helicopters and the men in black. Like, I don't know how much. I just like to stick with like-minded people. I don't know how much to say published because there's that kind of fear.
I know.
Irrational or not, I don't know. But yeah,
I hear that.
But I do have some neat pictures that I will share with you on your page, Chris. I'd be happy to.
Oh, good. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you guys very, very much. And we will say good night. Good night, everyone.
Good night, all. Peace.
Good night, you guys, and good night, viewers. And we'll see you again next Tuesday at 7 Eastern Time. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Awesome. It's a good show, Chris.
And we're out. Thank you.